This episode of Turkey Tips and Tactics, brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, starts now. Okay, I'm going to elaborate a little bit on decoy setups because there's several different configurations of decoys you can use and how to set them up, whether you're hunting with a bow, whether you're hunting with a gun. We'll start with hunting with a bow, for instance. Number one, you have to know your effective range as a shooter. So practicing, if your effective range is 20 yards, you're going to want to put your decoys around that 18-yard mark or so. That way, if there is a bird that's just on the outside of the decoys, you can make a good ethical shot on that turkey. But so knowing that is vitally important as well. Now, what decoys do I use? I talked about the hens and then a jake or a strutting decoy or some sort of male decoy, male turkey decoy. But how do I set them up? What I like to do is I like to kind of spread them out. Some people like to put them all kind of in a ball. Earlier in the season, I like to spread them out a little bit because what happens is, if depending on the terrain, there's humps and little rises that you necessarily don't see with your naked eye from ground level where you're setting. So if you spread them out, you may be giving them the opportunity to see the head of that hen decoy, and as they get closer, then they see the rest of the decoy spread. Where if they were bunched up together, they wouldn't be able to see anything. All they're going by is their ears. So if they can associate two senses, their hearing, and then also see a decoy, you have a lot better chance of being successful. So spread them out. When I say spread them out, I'm saying 10 yards, maybe 6 yards apart, especially if you're hunting with a bow. So you know, okay, if I'm a right-handed shooter, I'm going to want to set my decoys up more to the left side. That way I can draw my bow back right here comfortably with a lot less movement. If you're hunting out of a blind or in a blind even, make sure if you're hunting in a blind, make sure the windows are positioned correctly so you can draw easy. That's going to eliminate the risk of being busted inside the blind. And if you're outside of a blind hunting with a bow, same thing. You want to make sure you set your decoys where you think the birds are going to be, to where it's going to be easiest for you to get drawn back. With a shotgun, same thing. Know your effective range. If you're there's a lot of different shotgun loads out there. A lot of people are using 410s now. A lot of people are moved down to a 20 gauge, and there's still a lot of 12 gauge shooters out there. Just know your gun. Know your ammo. If your effective range is 50 yards, you could probably put your decoys out there at 25 yards. That way you're covered. It's right in the middle. If the birds do lock up out there, if they do come in between you and the decoy, even better. It's going to get your ticker ticking for sure. But same thing. Spread them out a little bit. Make sure, because what that's going to do is hopefully as the birds come in, they're going to spread out as well. You may have, if you've got multiple tom turkeys there, a lot of times they'll go to that male decoy first, and then you'll see one venture off and go over and look at a hen. That's going to offer you an opportunity to harvest one bird and make sure the birds are spread out. You're not going to have BBs or pellets hit any other birds. So always be cognizant of where the birds are at. If there's multiple birds, look beyond that bird. Make sure there's not another bird standing behind it. But spread your decoys out just a little bit. Create some space so the turkeys can get around the decoys and through the decoys. That's going to help you be super successful in the field, because the birds will stay there longer. And then it's up to you as a hunter to be patient and wait for that perfect shot opportunity. Particular to decoy setup, when I say spread the decoys out, I like to try to put my hens more on one side versus the other. What that does in your male turkey behind, because this time of year, that's what's happening. The males are following the hens around. So you want to make it look as real as possible. So I usually set my hens a little bit out front, spread out, whether it's my feeding hen, my stand-up hen, and then the male turkey just a little bit behind, usually in range, because most of the time the male turkeys will go and they'll bypass those hens in most cases and go right to the jake decoy or the tom decoy. So don't be afraid to be, as the season progresses, to change things up. If you hadn't been successful early season, or you hadn't had a chance to hunt, just watch what the turkeys are doing and adapt. Don't be afraid to make adjustments. Pull a decoy, add a decoy. If set a decoy up on a rise. There's been several situations too where I've had to crawl out there, change the decoys, after the birds just disappeared, set it up on a rise, and it was 40, 50 yards, the decoy was, from me, just so they could see it to pull the turkeys in closer. Once they saw that decoy, they get up to where they can see the rest of the decoys. You have the male decoy, and they gravitate right past that hen decoy, right down to the male decoy again, and it could definitely present an opportunity for you to be successful. So there's not really a right or wrong way to go out and set them up. I'm just giving you my opinion of what's worked for me in the past. But if there's anything that I could say is, don't be afraid to adapt. If the birds aren't responding to something, change. Go out and pull a hen decoy. Even take, sometimes too, if the grass is too tall, I'll set that decoy, I'll take the stake out and I'll just set the decoy on the ground if it's not too windy. Just for a different look. It looks like that bird's squatted down just resting. Everything we just went over I've had success with. In some cases it hadn't worked. But really the only reason why I go over all that is because you're hunting an animal that's mannerism and attitude changes by the day. So therefore, being able to adapt and change your setups on the fly is really going to inhibit more success for you in the turkey woods. Thank you for watching this episode of Turkey Tips and Tactics, brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. We'd be more than happy to answer anything you have. Good luck this spring.